Welcome back to part two of my chat with former career criminal Ron Isherwood and his support person, John Killick. Um, is it John's here just to make sure there's no funny business going on in the interview room?
Absolutely old school.
Old school.
No verbal.
I'm still laughing the fact that we're sitting down here talking and I'm recording. Jesus Christ.
So we're not going to sign anything.
Well, we'll see about that. We'll wait till the end. Yeah. I reckon the old days, if I had you here, you'd just be both sitting here staring at me. Is that the way you play it?
Asking for a lawyer.
Yep. And
No.
just give nothing?
I wouldn't even ask for a lawyer. I'd lay on the floor.
Yeah, I read that in
Yeah.
your book. That was one of the... I've never had someone actually lay on the floor.
In
That would be...
handcuffs. Just
okay.
lay on the floor.
That's a statement.
That's just like, and the young federal officer said to me, "Are you okay, Mr. Isherwood?" And I said, "Well, darling, do you know what time it is?" And she said, "It's 10:35. I said, "Yeah, and I'm going to sleep." And she said, "Would someone please put him in the cells?" She didn't know what to do, poor God love her. She'd never met anyone like me.
Yeah.
She was like, "Well, what are we going to do?"
Yeah, I could imagine that would... yeah, that's hardcore.
It's just, well, I didn't want to waste their time and I didn't want to waste mine.
Yeah. Okay. Where are we going to go now? Your book. We talked about your something in reading your book, and I've got this, and we laugh about what's happened and different things and different things that have occurred in your life. But there's a lot of pain, and there was a quote that you made in the book, and I just want to read that out because when I was reading, I think it sort of made me feel a little bit sad, and I think it brings it home what we're talking about here. That after you were arrested on one of your many escapades or whatever, headlines in the local paper said rogue animal recaptured, and you made the comment in the book on seeing those headlines that there was this distorted public image of me as a person to be despised, whereas deep down all as I wanted, just like any other living thing, was to be loved.
It's correct.
Do you want to expand on that?
In my life, in my family, I never heard my father say to my mother or to any other one of us, "I love you." I'd never heard those words. And then by the time that I'd got into sexual relationships with girls and they said, "I love you," a little thing in my mind just say, "You don't even know who I am." You know, like I didn't believe that I was lovable.
Yeah.
And I actually believed that. And I also was brought up with the belief that love was a weakness. Because if you loved that girl and the cops got hold of her,
They were the rules.
you know, I pleaded guilty on a jewellery robbery once because they pinched my girlfriend. So that was used against me, you know. So, you know what I mean? So that was a love that, like, if you don't plead guilty on this jewellery robbery, we're going to pinch your girl because she was wearing one of the watches, you know.
So love is a weakness.
Love was a weakness. So it was sad because what happened to me was in 1986, I'd started getting off drugs in 1981. I'm jumping forward. But in 1986, I'd been struggling to try to stay off drugs. And I got a mentor, which we've talked about before. You've got to have somebody. We all need a mentor. And I said to this guy, because I had trouble with the word God and all that, and I said, "What's your understanding of a power? You've got to have a higher power." And he said, "My higher power is love, understanding, and forgiveness." It was like he punched me in the solar plexus.
This is the dude with the long hair.
No, this is the dude that is my best mate now. He's still Mario, his name is.
Right.
He's my mentor still today. I've had him for 37 and a half years as a mentor. And when he said it was like some punched me up the guts because all I wanted my whole life was love, understanding, and forgiveness of myself.
Yeah.
And I went on a spiritual journey. I went to India. I went to the ashrams looking for some spiritual things.
Yep.
It's all in recovery. I went to Jerusalem, walked the steps of Christ, went to where he was actually crucified, slung the security guard to let me go right up to where it was. Mate, you know, it's still there, you know.
God will forgive.
Mate, he wanted me to come there. The gate, he didn't put the gate there, someone else did. So I've been through that whole spiritual journey. I went to Buddhism, I went to lots and lots of things, and I found out that the thing I was looking for was inside of me the whole time. The thing I searched for my whole life through crime, through prisons, through relationships, through drugs, through everything was always inside of me. I always had love, understanding, forgiveness inside of me. I just couldn't find it. And the way I found it was by getting rid of the bullshit. Because it was covered under so much bullshit, doctoring, teachings that you're worthless, useless, and hopeless. You'll never be anything. Because I was told that by everybody. My father told me that. The services told me that. Corrective services told me that. The prior board told me that. The police told me that. The judge told me that. You know, and in 1981, I went to a rehab. It was the first time in my life I felt compassion for another human being. It sounds really sad, but it's true.
That is sad.
I was 21 years of age. My mum passed away on the 5th of March 1974, and I couldn't cry at her funeral. That's sad.
Just couldn't bring the emotions up.
I had none. I was so detached from having an emotion. So you got to remember, as a little boy, I was bashed. And when I cried, he'd say, "I'll give you something to fucking cry about, you little," and he'd bash me more. Then he got to a stage where he'd bash me and I wouldn't cry. And he'd bash me to try to make me cry, and I wouldn't cry. I'd shut down. I'd completely emotionally detached from any sort of human emotion whatsoever. And that's why I survived in prison. That's why I survived on the streets. Because my motto was, if you shoot me, kill me. Because the repercussions are going to be enormous. The square up's going to come back at you 1,000 times, you know. I have a joke, that you can't kill somebody who's killing themselves. You can't hurt someone who's already hurt themselves. The most dangerous person in any room is the person who cares the least about themselves.
I agree with that.
I was that guy.
Yeah, they're dangerous.
You couldn't hurt me. You couldn't physically hurt me anymore. You couldn't emotionally hurt me, and I didn't have a spirit. My spirit had died. And I had a spiritual awakening on, it's going to sound crazy, in 1986 when I had a spiritual awakening while I was in the midst of a heroin addiction. And I've only been telling this story a couple of years now, and I tell it to help people. Because I had 5 years of being around recovery. I went to 12-step programs, went to rehab and all that stuff. And I was still trying to stay clean, but I was sort of half in, half out. I was half pregnant. And I relapsed, and I was full-blown. I was on methadone, which anyone knows what it is. It's a drug to stop you from using heroin, but it doesn't really work. It just gets you a bigger habit. Just you don't have to commit a crime to get the methadone. And I had a dream that I died. And I had beautiful twin daughters. They were 2.5 years of age who had met their mother in rehab. And this dream was pretty full on. And, because of our doctrine and our belief systems, I believed I'd OD'd and I'm dying and I'm going to wherever you're going. But it was going upwards. And I got to this place and there was a guy with long hair and a long coat and everything else. And I'm trying to justify my existence on earth. And I'm like, listen, man, anyone ever shot, they were gangsters and criminals. I never hurt any innocent people. Most of the places I robbed were institutions, financial institutions. Or I'm trying to justify him. And he was smiling the whole time. He was just standing there smiling. I just remember this presence. And I don't know about you, but when I've been in situations that have been extremely fearful, I feel sweat run down my back. I could feel this sweat running down my back, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm in trouble here. And I'm doing my best to verbal my way into where I was going. I didn't want to go to the other joint where the pineapples were. And he looked at me and he smiled and he said, "You don't get it, do you, Ron?" And I remember looking at him right in the eyes and he said, "You committed the greatest sin known to man." And I shit myself. I thought, I'm fucked. I'm not going to heaven. I'm fucked.
Yeah, he's seen how bad I am.
And he just smiled and he said, "You wasted the gift of life." All the crimes were irrelevant. But this God-given gift that we're given is called life. And I'd wasted it through crime, through all this stuff. And I had a spiritual awakening on that day. And I went and come off 120 milligrams of methadone cold turkey. And I haven't touched a drug ever since.
Right. You've got a tattoo on your hand. What date is it?
The 3rd of the 3rd, 1986.
And that's the last time?
That's the last time I put a chemical in my body of any type.
Yeah.
I haven't had a drink since 82, but I haven't had a drug since 1986.
And it was 7-year roughly period that you're addicted to heroin?
Heroin, yeah, fully addicted from 74 to 86, but I had nearly 5 years off. I had 10 years clean, relapsed for a few months. I had 12 months clean, relapsed for a couple of months. Then I had 30 months clean and relapsed for 5 months. So in that 5-year period, there's a difference between being drug-free and being in recovery, which I learnt later
Okay,
on.
break that down.
Well, drug-free, you're still doing the same things you used to do.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm drug-free, but now I'm a dry drunk. They use that term dry drunk.
Yeah.
I was still a criminal. I was still thinking like a criminal. I was still me against the world. Don't get me wrong, I was helping people and everything else, but I was living a double life. I'd still, have that meeting every couple of years where someone would say, there's a little earn here. Do you want to throw some money and we'll give you a kickback, and so you haven't got a spiritual connection.
Yeah.
And what happened for me, as we know, and we might as well talk about that now. In 2002, I was a multi-millionaire living in a waterfront property with a beautiful wife I'd met in America, a 6-year-old daughter, and an old mate came to me. And I was building another property. I had 3 waterfront properties. I was building another property. And he came to me and said, brother, help me. I've mucked up. I've made a mistake. I did something overseas, and I've lost 30 kilos of cocaine.
Yeah.
And I owe money. Help me. And I said to him, mate, I don't need to do this, brother. And I still remember it today. I'm standing at this front of this incredible house. Like, to me,
You got everything you want.
I had everything I ever wanted.
Yeah.
And because I have this, and I've actually been working on it ever since, I have this incredible loyalty. It was detrimental to me.
Yeah.
And I said to him, mate, I'm not going to help you. And then, I lent him some money. Cut a long story short, I eventually, and it wasn't just through loyalty. There was also there was going to be a financial gain, so I'll call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
It's not St. Ron. And I thought, yeah, all right, mate, one more. That's not going to hurt. I've been out of the game a long time. It's not a big deal. I'll just throw some money in.
Got one more good fight.
And I'll get an earn out of it, and I wasn't going to do anything. He said, mate, will you come to Brazil, give them the nod and say that you're backing me and that everything's going to be okay? And I said, yeah, sweet. Cut a long story short, it's irrelevant of what happened. We got arrested.
Yeah.
For conspiracy to import 12 kilos, it was 30 kilos in Brazil, 12 kilos of cocaine into Australia. And that was in 2002. I got arrested, and all our assets got frozen. Conspiracy.
Well,
there was no proceeds of crime, but the way the law works was then what happened was I went out onto remand again for about 8 months. Well, I got extradited I got arrested at Byron Bay, got extradited back to Queensland, which the police were very clever because they could get more evidence in Queensland that they would never have got into New South Wales.
Right, okay.
So, because the crime was committed in New South Wales.
But they could easier pathway.
A lot easier pathway to
Queensland.
get through the system in Queensland. So they took me back to Queensland. I thought I would be found not guilty. In my heart of hearts, I thought, I knew how much I'd said, I knew everything else, but I didn't understand technology. And that's what happens to old crims.
Yeah.
We don't understand technology.
The world changes.
The world changed. So unbeknownst to me, these phones that I was getting given that were, they called burners.
Burner phones, yeah.
The guy that was in charge of the burner phones was a drug user who told me he wasn't, because I would never have got involved.
Yeah.
Because drug users make a lot of mistakes. And, if it comes time to have a shot or buy a phone, I'm going to have a shot and give him another phone and tell him it's the same phone, Cut a long story short, I got found guilty through 3 conversations, telephone conversations. It was one afternoon, I get a phone call from someone in Colombia.
Yep.
He says, Pintaro. And I said, mucho difícil. It's Portuguese. Too difficult. Don't fucking call me. And I hang up. He rings this other guy and says, I just rang Pintado. He's really pissed off. And he's angry. So the guy rings me and says, so-and-so just called me from Colombia. He said he's sorry for calling you. I said, mate, fuck off.
Yeah.
And I hang up. That made me Pintado. Because when he called me Pintado.
So that's how you got linked to it.
So they've got all these conversations between Australia and Colombia, Brazil, about this guy Pintado,
And they've just identified you as Pintaro.
and that I got found guilty of three conversations.
Sounds like a pretty cool name, Ron, but how long did you get for having that cool name of Pintaro?
18 years.
Jesus.
18 years of federal sentence, and Pintado means the painted man.
Right. Okay.
So that's what,
tattoos.
the tattoos. And that's what they said when the prosecutor said, Mr. Isherwood, would you stand up and lift up your shirt? And I said, no, I won't. And he said, you don't have to anyway. He said, here's a photo of Mr. Isherwood at the beach, and passed it around to the jury because I have a full bodysuit.
Yeah, of tattoos.
Yeah, of tattoos. And
We'll,
they said,
we'll talk about
Yeah.
that, but that's it's a bit hard to get those tattoos off in,
Yeah.
in a hurry.
so that was technology, mate, and that was dipping my foot back in the drink.
No, okay, I'm laughing about it, but really, it's sort of, and I've said it to John, say
Yeah.
it to you. It saddens me when I see someone trying to go straight for a long time, and you're out of trouble for 20
years. Yeah.
and then you get sentenced with 18 years.
Yep.
Do you hate yourself at that point in time? Or you just
Extremely disappointed.
yeah,
Extremely disappointed. I'd had a lot of recovery. I was 16 years clean off drugs, so I didn't hate myself anymore. I was more. This is the truth. The truth of the matter is, I was more disgusted that I let myself betray myself, my own integrity, and go against my own belief systems. I was more disappointed that I fought for 20 years to make a good name in society, because
Yeah.
I had a good. Up there, I was Ron the builder, Ron the jeweler, Ron the developer.
yeah,
Now I'm all of a sudden I'm Ron the crim again. And I've worked so hard to get away from being Ron the crim. And the greatest crime that I committed, don't get me wrong, what I did was shit.
yeah. Okay,
I'm-
that's important.
I'm,
like
I'm
you-
telling you right now,
yeah.
it was a shit go.
Yep.
I wish I hadn't have got involved for many reasons. One, I got caught.
Yeah.
Let's call a spade a spade. If I got away with it, I probably would have thought it was okay to do it again.
Yeah, you would have gone down
Yeah.
that path.
I'm not a victim. I served my sentence. I served it with dignity. And what happened for me was I missed out on watching my beautiful little girl, who was 6 years of age at my arrest, become a 16-year-old woman when I was released.
It's hard.
And that's, if people ask me, what's one of your biggest regrets in life, that is one of them.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't there for her, And now I have an 8-year-old boy who's 8 very soon, and a 4-year-old daughter. I would never I don't usually make the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
Albert Einstein said, the sign of insanity is making the same mistake and expecting different results. I don't. I try not. I even did it in crime. If we were doing armed robberies and we got heat for armed robberies, I'd stop doing armed robberies. I'd go doing safes. So I was doing safes. We got heat for safes. So I'd go and do something else. I'd change my MO.
Yeah.
Because the cops are,
Don't do the same. So
Yeah.
if you do the same thing and it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll never do that crime. I'll never commit a crime again. As long as I live. And so I got sentenced to 18 years. Terry O'Gorman was my lawyer, who's a civil rights lawyer in Queensland.
Yeah,
probably
I've
probably
heard of
the
him.
best lawyer.
Yeah, he's got a good reputation.
He's a good man too.
Yeah.
And he came downstairs after we'd been found guilty, because I had 3 co-accused all get found not guilty. So in my crazy head, this is just the way I'm wired. I don't come on here to talk shit to you and tell you fibs. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I won't come on here if I'm going to tell fibs. I'm not that guy. I'm not a bridge up, like all that rubbish. He came downstairs, Terry, and he said, I'm so sorry, because he'd become emotionally involved with me and my wife and my kid.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm so sorry, mate, because we all thought I was going to beat it. And I said, Terry, look, they didn't win, mate. I said, I lost.
Yeah.
I said, they didn't win. It was back to those, me and them. Because by now I'm back in that mentality. I'm going back to prison.
Yeah.
I'm now have to survive.
That's interesting. So you got to switch on and become
You've got to flick that switch back on. You got to come back to being that bad motherfucker.
Yeah.
That
Because you
in
can't
there.
go in there as a happy-go-lucky Ron that's well respected in the community and
Exactly.
go back in there.
And you've got to go back in now as Ron, the crim.
Yeah.
And you've got to remember, you go back into jail these days, they think big-time drug smugglers are kingpins. You know what I mean? Like where the bank robbers and the safecrackers were when I was a kid. Now the drug smugglers are the kingpins, and you got your pecking order. So you go in there, and all of a sudden it's like, oh man, you're such a cool dude. You're a cool dude that's got sentenced to 18 years.
Yeah.
You know, they've just, seized millions of dollars worth of my assets,
Just
which I'm going to lose from the proceeds of crime.
just
My
totally
wife's going to
destroyed
leave
my
me.
life.
Yeah, my wife's going to leave me and go back to America and take my 6-year-old daughter with her.
Yeah.
So I'm just fucking, I'm killing it. I'm killing
Woohoo,
it.
well done.
Yeah, I'm killing
You're
it. Yeah.
respected in Sea Wing. Who
Yeah,
cares?
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and I used to always say, used to be one of my jokes. I used to say, I'd rather be living in a tent than be the richest guy in prison.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now I'm this rich guy in prison.
For that 20 years when you went clean, so you kicked heroin on 86.
86.
You had, and I'm raising it because I'm interested in it because I went there myself. You went to Sri Lanka.
Yeah, mate. I'm a gem dealer.
And Hikkaduwa.
Yeah.
I spent, and we might have crossed paths because I spent a great deal of time there on a surf trip.
One of the most beautiful countries in the world.
And Hikkaduwa was just a fascinating place. There was surfers, there was druggies, there was gem dealers, there was mercenaries, and it was a very volatile place at the time. And I know you had some experiences there.
Yeah, mate. We got there. I think it was about 1987. We got there, and it was in the middle of the Tamil War.
Yep.
The war was going on full on, and we'd gone from Colombo to Hikkaduwa, and I came out of the house. I was staying in, like, you call it Airbnb. It's not. It's just someone's house that lived there, and we had rooms there. And there was 2 dead bodies, which is pretty confronting. Naked, dead bodies, and they were black, and they had charcoal stuck off when they'd burnt them. And I said to the lady that we were in the house with, and because we had a gem dealer that put us up in this house, and I said, why doesn't somebody move the bodies? She said, oh, we can't touch them. They're Tamil tigers. Yeah. I'm like, what? She goes, yeah. We have to leave them there to make examples. So everybody walks past today, they see what happens to the Tamils. And I'm like, oh, this is fucking... I come from some pretty nasty places, but they didn't leave the dead bodies on the road for everyone to see. Fast forward 2 days, I think it was, we go and we do a big gem deal. We do a gem deal. I'm swapping opals because I come from a family that's got opal mines, and I'm swapping opals with them, and I'm getting gemstones from them and all that sort of stuff. And we came back the next morning. I get up, and these soldiers, not cops, they're soldiers, and they're kids carrying, machine guns and shotguns everywhere.
Yeah, and you see the bunkers and everywhere you go.
Everywhere.
I remember it.
And I said to this, I was going to go to the beach, and it was like a resort, then the beach. And I said to the guy going through the resort, he said, you can't go down there, sir. I said, what do you mean? He said, the Tamils got 2 soldiers last night and cuts their heads off, and they're sticking on sticks.
I'm alone. Yeah.
And I came back and I said to the guy I was with, I'm fucking out of here.
Well, don't forget the line. The guy called in a line.
Yeah, well, that was the first day I'd got up because, we've established already that I'm not real bright. I got up and I walked out of the hotel. We're staying at the Hilton Hotel, which is right near the railway station. And I walked out and because the beach is right in front of you, the ocean's right there. And I
in
thought,
Colombo, you're talking.
In Colombo. I'm thinking, oh, this is beautiful, this. And I turned right and I walked up the street. I thought, geez, it's quiet here today. It's fucking quiet. I walked down the road and I see a sign casino. So, I'm walking, maybe some Sheila's there because I'm, I'm going to go and have a look and see what the talent is around the town. There's nothing open, and I started walking back in this laneway, and this bloke's down there with a machine gun. He went, psst, psst, like that. And I was wearing a big gold chain, and I had a big opal around the neck, and I went,
yeah, a lot of cash too, didn't you?
Yeah, a lot of, and that feeling you get in your guts, it's like, nah, I'm not walking down that lane. He's like, psst, psst, like this is a soldier. And I went, nah, fuck that. And I just walked down, and I went back, and as soon as I got to the front door, the concierge said, Mr. Isherwood, where have you been? Where have you been? He said, no, sir, there's a curfew. You're not allowed out. That's why it was so quiet. They're in the middle of a war, civil war.
Ignorance is bliss, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
that place was probably the scariest place I've ever been to, apart from New York, when I got lost in New York once. I ended up in a bad area in New York. And, where you get that feeling where it's not what you see, it's what you feel.
No, you know something's going down.
He goes down that line, he's dead.
Sri Lanka back in that time. I remember it and remember it well. We were just so ignorant and naive. We're just here surfing. It didn't think anything of it. But it was a terrible civil.
Gold chain.
I didn't have the gold chain. But I had long hair.
I had oblivion. Yeah, which is bliss. But I do remember it was probably the scariest place I ever came back to. Then I had to bribe an official to get on a plane to get out of the country.
Yeah, and you had your opals down your
Yeah,
underpants. I got strip search when I left the place, so
Did you?
I would have
Yeah.
been stuffed if I tried to take the gems out.
Wow.
They-
Yeah.
I've been doing that my whole life with,
Yeah.
with the underpants, because even in prison,
Yeah.
you'd put the second pocket in your underpants, and because the screws never wanted to touch your undies, especially if you knew you were going on escort, you'd saw your undies a little bit,
Yeah.
and so when you pull them down, they go like, oh, I'm not. You'd hand them to them, they go like, I don't fucking want to touch that, And that's where,
we're getting now, listeners.
Yeah.
We're getting the inside prison tricks here.
yeah, and that's where your dope was hidden.
Yeah.
So when you were moving through the system, you carried everything in your underpants, and
Yeah.
you made sure they were a bit scrubby, and no one wanted to touch them.
No one wants
No one wanted to touch
go
them.
there.
So that was my trip to Hikkaduwa. I still say to this day it was one of the most beautiful countries I've ever been to.
Oh,
Physically beautiful.
And round that Hikkaduwa, I reckon I could have stayed there for the rest of my life.
It's
I
such a
was
pretty
tempted,
place.
but I've been back in the last couple of years. You can hardly recognise it, like it built up and those deserted beaches and
Yeah.
all that. But it's still a very nice place. Anyway, this is not a travel guide podcast. This podcast
Yeah.
is called I Catch Killers.
Yeah.
Your tattoos, just
Yeah.
tell us briefly about that, because I'm interested in the fact that the whole body, but you've said it's a link, however you describe it, like it's almost like a spiritual
It
journey.
is a
for you.
spiritual journey for me.
Explain that.
My father hated tattoos.
Yep.
That was the first reason I ever got a tattoo. I got a tattoo in 1971 in Pentridge. And we always laugh about it. I got a pirate's head on my hand. I'd never been to a boat in my life, you know what I mean? And we have a joke, they say, you can't be a pirate, you got no buccaneers. I say, yeah, but they're under me bucking hat. That was the that used to be our joke we had as kids. And so anyway, cut a long story short, I got some tattoos. The first tattoo I ever got was a tattoo on my arm, still there. It says, in memory of mother.
Right.
That was my first tattoo.
Yep.
It was for my mum when she died in 1974, really. And then I got the other side tattooed. And then I never got tattooed. I got a Jesus on my back.
Mm.
And it's just the outline of Jesus, because I'm a lot deeper than what people think I am. In the old days, when you were being whipped, if you had a religious symbol on your back, the guy doing the whipping would pull up because of his fear of
Hitting the
Jesus.
images,
You know what I mean? And so I put the Jesus on my back. Then I never got tattooed for 19 years, and I went into rehab and jails and all that stuff, and because that was in '74, I started getting the tattoo. Mum died, I got the first tattoo. So fast forward 19 years, I'm overseas. Tattooing had changed, and I always wanted a bodysuit, because I knew the Japanese used to do it, the Yakuza used to do it, and they did it as a spiritual journey, and because they're quite painful.
Yeah.
Anyone that says tattoos don't hurt either.
making out they're a tough guy.
They hurt me. Every tattoo I've got's hurt me.
Yeah.
So I went on a quest and I collected artists. Like everything I do, I study everything, and I do my homework, and I research things, and I collected artists. So I went around the world and collected the best artists around the world, and I was really lucky that I met a guy. He's called Mike Malone. He's dead now. He owned a tattoo studio in Hawaii, and before that I met another guy called Ronnie Ackers. He's an old English guy. And he said, I got all these friends, like there's a guy called Ed Hardy. You see all the T-shirts, Ed Hardy?
Yeah.
He's actually a tattooist.
Right.
And I've got a big tattoo on my leg. That's a funny story. That's the American wife's tattoo. I got that for her because I met her at a club. And I said, come out for coffee, because I don't drink. She said, well, that's a new one. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
2 o'clock in the morning, I'm asking her, do you want to go and have a cup of tea? And she's like, well, that's a new one,
Bit different line.
And she said, you might be an axe murderer. So the next day I got this big tattoo of an axe murderer on my it's a big Japanese warrior with an axe, So all my tattoos are significant. They all mean something to me. I have angels on my back for my daughters. Then I have another angel on my other side. I've run out of room for my new daughter. I've just got her name tattooed on me. But every tattoo I've got, my arms are all dedicated to my mum.
Yeah, you got
It's all
full
Christian.
sleeves.
Yeah, it's all Christian, It's all, because that's how you pray. Even though I didn't believe in it,
Yep.
I give that to mum, But it was a spiritual journey, and in the end, I got tattooed in Japan by Horiyoshi, who's the master of all tattooists, and another friend of ours, Reese Gordon.
Yep.
He's done my hands,
Yeah.
the Buddhist hands, because I've known Reese since she was a kid. I watched Reese grow into the gentleman he is today.
Okay.
He's I've watched him go through the whole industry. He apprenticed under a mate of mine, and so it became a family, and it became a way of life, and I found I was getting respected and getting recognition for being a good person again and not being.
Yeah, it's looks like well, not looks like. I'm saying it feels like you're searching for that something of belonging and purpose.
I have to have purpose, and that's why I do the drug addiction counselling, and that's why I try to help so many people. I have such a, I don't know, it's a passion, but it's also, I think I've got to serve somebody. We've all got to serve somebody, whether it's the devil or whether it's the Lord.
Yeah,
You've got to serve somebody. And I served the devil for a long time.
you decide to flip it.
Yeah, like I want to be in control. Before I had no control. Today I have got choices. Today I've got control. That's why I always say I'm not a victim. Now, when I got arrested, Gary, and I went back to jail, this is the stereotypical stuff of the system, our system that we all have to live in. And you've been part of this victimisation of a system that's, our system.
I fought the law and the law won.
Yeah, well,
Don't bring it up.
yeah, I've always said that. I fought the law and the law won. So I go to classification. When you first get sentenced, you go to a classification. There's a parole officer there, a psychologist, a welfare officer, and there's a whole bunch of people there. There was this woman there, about 40, not being rude. She was probably divorced, and she was a little bit cranky at the world. She wasn't very happy, and she lived locally from where we lived. And I had a big waterfront mansion, and I had the 30-year-old American wife with the long red hair and all that nice stuff, and the sports cars and the boats and all that stuff. And she just when I walked in, I just seen her looking at me and had this really shitty taste in her mouth. And she said, bit of a fall from grace for you, isn't it, Mr. Isherwood? From your multi-million-dollar mansion to a prisoner's cell at Woodford.
Yeah.
And I started laughing. And I said, you haven't read my antecedents. I said, living in the mansion was the fucking scary part. I said, back here, I'm home. And the whole joint just started snickering.
Yeah.
All the prison officers, the parole officers, everyone started snickering.
Yeah.
I said, that was the hard part. That was the weird part. That was the uncomfortable part. Living in society. I said, this is home.
That would have put her on the back foot.
And she went quiet. She never said another word.
Yeah.
But she was right. It was a shock to my system because the system has changed. Jails have changed. Drugs run the prison system.
Yeah.
You can be a horrible person. It doesn't matter what your crime is if you're getting dope.
Okay, so there's not that pecking or the respect or whatever.
There's no more
the
respect.
drugs are coming in. The work that you're doing for rehabilitating people and getting them off drugs, what's that involve?
I started a company called The Truth About Addiction. I've been doing this for a long time. I've always worked in drug and alcohol.
Yeah.
Even when I was half in, half out, I still worked in drug and alcohol. I still helped people. It's so confusing, even to my brain, to think. See, I was a heroin addict. My idea of cocaine was that rich people use it.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt you, which is not right. It's not right. It's not right. It's
No,
wrong.
you'll end up paying the price if it's any drug,
everybody,
isn't it?
everybody, But my attitude was cocaine users, lawyers, judges, doctors, people with plenty of money. You're not hurting anybody, because I'd never heard of anyone ODing on cocaine or anything like that, I never knew anyone that was robbing banks for cocaine, and so in my brain, I justified it's only coke.
Yep.
Because when Wendell Saylor got arrested with it, it was a recreational drug. When I got arrested with it, it was a narcotic. I don't know whether where the spelling changed. Is it a recreational drug? Is it a narcotic? It's a narcotic. It kills people. Marijuana fucks people's life up. All drugs, pharmaceutical drugs fuck people's lives up. All drugs screw people's lives up if people have addictive personality, and that's what I deal with. I deal with addictive personality, not substances.
Okay, so you're trying to break that.
I call myself, I try to change the way you think. I say you haven't got a drinking problem, you've got a thinking problem. You think you need to drink, but you don't. We need to get down to the core issues. There's a doctor called Mate Gabor. He's a really famous doctor. He talks about trauma. He's probably the most famous in the world. I agree with a lot of what he says, but we all have trauma.
Yeah.
See, your trauma could be different than mine, but you've still got trauma. I don't say your trauma is any worse than mine or any better than mine. It's your trauma.
Whatever that might be.
Whatever that might be. It could be you didn't get you're the middle child, you didn't feel like you were respected or loved by your parents.
Yeah, it can be that
So
simple.
I chose to use drugs because everybody that takes a chemical to change the way they feel, we've got to ask is the drug's not the problem. The problem is what do you need to fill? What are you trying to achieve out of this chemical or gambling? So I know people that gamble. I deal with a lot of gamblers.
We're not just for it is a podcast. I'm not sure why Ron looked at John Killick.
And who get the same rush out of watching a fucking horse race as I used to do out of shooting heroin.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Watching that horse come down the back straight, coming from fucking third last up the outside, he's coming down the lane. I got mates who a lot of my clients become friends.
Yeah.
So it's a very interactional.
well, you got to give a little bit of yourself.
Well, I do.
Yeah,
And I got a young guy. He's a beautiful young guy. Worked his ass off. Not a criminal. See, I like a lot of things I do now because I'm not dealing with a lot of criminals. It sounds terrible. I'm a criminal. I'm dealing with a lot of people that can't give up their job because they've got to keep working to maintain their companies. And they're the people I deal with. You know, 'cause it's expensive to get my services. It's expensive.
Yep.
It's not for free. You know, it's a company. You know, I charge a fee. Not very much because $5,000 for 30 days. You can buy $5,000 in half an afternoon.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So, it's 30 days consistent. I do an hour a day, every day.
With them.
Zoom, one-on-one, and you work.
And that's sort of intensity it needs to
Yes, mate.
get them through it.
You've got to change the habit.
Yeah.
You've got to break that cycle. And it takes 28 days to break a habit. And it takes 30 days to start a new one, I believe.
Yeah, I've heard that before, and a lot of people have kept to that
I smash
philosophy.
it. And people get worked really hard. I've only had one person drop out of my course.
Yeah.
One person, she thought she was manipulating me. Can't con a con. She had a court case. And can you write me a letter? No.
Yeah.
Can you do? No.
You see through it.
Yeah, it's like, the book she's reading out of I wrote.
You can't bullshit a bullshit.
Exactly, mate. I always say you can't con a con. So, so this young guy splits up with his girl, his wife, sells his house. He's a tradesman, good guy, lovely guy, fucking really good human being. Not an evil part of his body, mate. Just blew 360 grand in something like 7 months.
Jesus.
It took him his whole life to make that 360
save.
grand.
Yeah.
And it was in 3 months, 3 or 7 months, he blew the lot.
It's just so destructive, isn't it?
And that kills me.
Mm.
I have a 17-year-old boy. This is my love story. I had a parent ring me a couple of years ago now. We've got a 17-year-old son. He's dying. Will you please talk to him? His old man had heard a podcast like this.
Yeah.
He'd heard me on the Fallon show.
Yep.
With David Abita. I love David.
Yeah, does a good job.
Yeah, and he said, I think he will listen to you. He's there from Melbourne. I said, yeah, if you can get, because I do a 30-minute free consultation before I take you on. Because if I don't think you're ready, I say, mate, piss off. You're not ready. If you think it's about money, you got me wrong. You've rang the wrong number. If you think this, I'm going to do this because you're going to pay me, it's not about that.
But you need to have that upfront, cut the bullshit, don't you?
And so this kid was 17, 6'1", 40 kilos, been on the street for 2 years, was dying. He was dying.
Yeah.
And cut a long story short, he's playing the grand final of the AFL next week.
Wow. That must give I can see the smile on your face and the joy.
Makes me emotional, yeah.
Yeah.
And his dad and I become real good mates. I've treated his other son, who's not drugs, it's other stuff, because it's all mental health.
They're the ones I met in Pentridge.
The family come and support me at Pentridge.
Lovely kid.
Well, I think how good's that you're balancing the ledger.
That's it, mate.
And doing something, and it's something that's meaningful.
Yeah. I get more joy. See, it's really funny. I'm still the same guy. I've just changed my energy to go to a different way.
Yeah.
I'm still ferocious.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong. If someone come into my house tomorrow to harm my children, I will kill them.
Yeah.
And and go to jail. Not even blink an eye.
Yeah.
If that sounds horrible and sounds psychotic or whatever, I'm sorry, but I can't come here and bullshit to you. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But if somebody was going to harm my family, I would I would die to protect my family. And I believe any man that doesn't is not much of a man. That's just me. That's just me. I'm sorry.
I'm hearing you. I'm not arguing against that.
But will I go and harm anybody for no reason? No.
Yeah.
Will I go and sell drugs? No. Will I commit another crime? No. No.
Mm-hmm.
No. It's not even negotiable. It's not even a
It's not there anymore.
it's not there anymore, mate. It's not there. He doesn't live there anymore. When people judge me, I say it's like breaking into a house I used to live in. I'm not there,
Yeah.
you know. And I have another sarcastic saying. I say, for the people that want to judge me, next time you're praying, pray for me so I can be perfect like you. You know.
I've looked, but I've yet to find that perfect person
Yeah.
yet. But look, I think it's so powerful, like hearing your story and letting people understand that, because I put my hand up. As a cop, yeah, I'd move from one job to another. I'd lock you type of guys up, and I didn't have much time to think about why or how you got to there. And I'm happy with the journey I'm on now. At least I'm looking at going, fuck, if I was brought up in that environment, I might have turned out the same way. It might have turned out worse. I don't know. But I think people, when they want to look at crime to understand it, because everyone's fascinated in this true crime thing. Everyone, it interests people because it's a world that most people don't get to see. But there's a price to be paid in there, and there's nothing.
Massive.
There's no glory in there, is there for you?
No.
Like sitting in a cell. There's nothing. You joke. You come back. I'm in my environment, but you're a drug dealer, so you got credibility. You had more credibility just being the neighbour down the road
100%.
that goes to work each day.
Yeah, and to me, courage is putting food on the table. You want to be a gangster?
Yeah.
Feed your family. Earn an honest dollar. You know, I'm 69 years of age in a couple of weeks. I still work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
People say to me, how do you do it? And I say, well, that's what you got to do. If you want more than the guy across the road and he works 40 hours a week, work 60. You know? Commit yourself. Dedicate yourself. I get more reward out of that young guy playing football next week. I got invited down to give him his first jumper.
Wow.
You know, and that was such a special
significant.
testament. You know, his dad says, mate, will you come? And he didn't know I was coming.
Yeah.
So I'm crying, he's crying, the old man's crying. One of the greatest footballers in Australian history, AFL players, is his godfather. And I've got a big plaque in my office that says, it's a picture of him doing all this, you know, kicking goals.
Yeah.
And he's one of the greatest AFL players ever. And it says, to the great Ronnie, thank you for saving all these lives.
Wow.
And it's signed by him.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a really nice thing. To me, that takes pride and purpose over anything I ever did before I started helping people.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you got things pointed in the right direction, and you've certainly lived a life. I just want to ask.
Yep.
You've got 8 children.
Yes.
5 different
Ex-wives,
mothers.
yes.
5 ex-wives.
Yes.
You must have something going for you.
I tell them, I was going to say something that I usually say. I tell them that I'm good in bed or I've got a lot of money. And they always say, which one's the truth? I said, I drive a nice car.
How's your relationship with your kids?
I adore my children.
Yeah.
My children love me.
Yep.
They don't fear me. I have 40-year-old twin daughters who are the apple of my eyes. I have that 28-year-old half American daughter who I love and adore. That she moved back to Australia when I came out of jail.
Yeah.
She lives around the corner from me. My other eldest daughter runs a detox unit. She's a nurse. My other daughter runs a nanny service for judges and high up people. So my family are all educated because my father didn't believe in education. My children all went to private schools. My new children, I have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old who think I'm the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah. I took my little boy fishing 2 weeks ago up to far north Queensland. He caught his first 68 centimetre barramundi. And all he ever says to me is, you're the best dad in the world. Yeah. And every single day I tell all my children, I love you. Every single day. I tell all my children, my eldest to my youngest, I love you. Every Christmas, my house is a rat house. Everyone comes to my joint. All the kids come, you know. My children didn't know a lot about this story about me. They don't know that story. Even when I got arrested in 2002, my eldest children said, it's a mistake.
Yeah.
They were 20 years of age.
It's not the person they knew.
They were 20 years of age when I got arrested.
Yeah.
They all said, it's a mistake. My father's not a criminal. My father runs a successful jewellery company. He's a property developer. And it was a mistake.
Yeah.
By me.
Your mistake.
My mistake. My mistake thinking one won't hurt.
Well, it looks like you're definitely breaking the cycle, because it quite often you see like it passes on generation after generation, and you guys have been around long enough to see that. So full credit to you that you're breaking the cycle and doing something worthwhile. John, any comments of your observations with Ron and that? You've been there, done that, and seen a lot of things.
Well, you know, you get to know who's genuine and who's not, and it's great to see stories about ex-crims, particularly, in my opinion, heavy crims, that you know are genuine about turning around. And I know Ron is genuine. He wants to do good things, and he's doing good things.
Yeah.
And he's the same as me. You can't take back what you've done. You've got to remember you. And that's where some people will never forgive. Wouldn't matter what we did. They'd say, you did this or you did that. And sometimes I've been on the radio or something, and they say, look, someone will get on and say, you did this and you went into a bank and you terrorised people. But we can't take that back. But we can do a lot of good. And I think by the time we're both finished, I think we'll be able to get up and say, we might have finished ahead of the game. I'm hoping that's what we can do. And yeah, I'm pretty proud of Ron, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just, sort of blown away with turning your life around. And I think looking at it from a cop's point of view or ex-cop's point of view, I think, okay, what do we want? Is it better just to keep you in the criminal world and we keep fighting, keep butting heads, or people change? And I think if a message comes across here is that people can turn their lives around.
If you want.
You know, I still help people overseas. Still to this day, most of my book money's gone to people overseas, and people say, why do you do it? And I ease up now, but when you get messages from people and you know it's genuine, where a child's dying or can't go to school, and you know if they go to school, they're probably going to make a good life, then you help and you feel good. And I'd rather feel good about doing that than, maybe spending what I've got on big cars or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
No, I just really think that I'm obligated to give back because I've been given so much.
Yeah.
People still say to me, oh, are you bitter? Are you twisted? No, I'm not. I'm not, mate. I'm not. I don't want to be bitter and twisted. I think it's a waste of time. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I'm alive. I'm grateful that I have 2 arms and 2 legs. I'm grateful that I have the ability to carry a message to say to people, this is what I did. It's not who I am, but this is who I am.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm doing.
It's a powerful message.
The second part of this book is a better part than the first. I like the second part better.
Okay.
But I had to write the first part to get understanding of what the second part is.
Yeah.
Because life's about serving. It's about being useful to other people. It's about giving, not taking. And when I was a drug addict, I was a human taking, not a human being. Today I'm a human being. I will give anything to anybody if they're fair income. If they think they're going to trick me or con me or stand over me or manipulate me, then the old Ron comes back pretty quickly. It's like, no.
Yeah.
I can say no today, which is really nice.
Not on.
It's not negotiable. Crime is not negotiable. For me today, crime is not negotiable.
Gary, I can really say that when we're down in Melbourne and I saw that family and spoke to that kid, and I spoke to him later on, and he was off to play football.
Yeah.
They virtually said that you saved that kid. And if you just save one, it's great.
Makes it worthwhile.
He's saving plenty. He's saving plenty. Yeah.
Well, let's keep up the good work. Yeah. When do we expect? Where do they get the book?
The book's on our website. The Truth About Addiction. You can just go straight on that and get it. Or if you're in Melbourne, you can go and buy it at Pentridge.
Yeah, we've got to supply some down there. They haven't got it at the moment. But you can get it from me too, johnkelly.com.
Okay, we'll get it out there and we'll wait till the second book comes on.
Yeah,
hey,
mate.
John, just maybe it's old habits, but before you go, can you sign this?
Well, we'll sign for our cheque, but we're not signing our goal. Sorry.
Just thought have a try. Just sign here, John. What about you, Ron?
Yeah.
We get a signature here.
I can't write, sorry.
Yeah.
And you
That's why
bloke,
it's written by John Gillick, see?
Yeah.
and you bloke said you'd changed. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, but
Still can't get a signature on the paper.
we know you've changed, but we just can't take the risk.
Well, look, guys, I really appreciate you
Thanks for your
coming on,
time.
and good luck with the way that you've turned your lives around. And thanks for trusting me to let you come on in this environment and tell your story.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. And look, the way I see it, I've seen a lot of your shows, and you're doing good stuff. And it's the stories got to be out there. And as you said, true crime is something, isn't it? Everybody's interested in it, and so why not get the best interviews and get the best ones out there while they're still around, because they're not going to be around forever.
Well, I look at you guys, and it's like, why wouldn't I sit down with you guys? It's like the last of the gunslingers, the old Wild West days. The world changes, and it changes pretty quickly. And so I appreciate it, and I enjoy spending time and getting to know you guys.
Yeah, no, well, I appreciate it, and I laugh to myself because I think, I restore cars for a living. For a long time, I've built really good cars. I don't know if they're going to make the new Hyundai XL in 30 years' time, whether that's going to be a collector's item.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the Crims in 30 years' time are going to be collector's items.
I don't know what's going to happen with them. It's a strange world. Maybe it's probably good we're all out of that world.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to open up the cupboard door and see if there's any more Crims around and bring them back to you. All right.
All right.
I'll
Cheers, guys.
find one somewhere. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate your time.